I see the burden you carry, my friend. That weight pressing against your chest in the dark hours. It is not the punishment you imagined. It is the chisel. And you, whether you knew it or not, have been standing still beneath its strikes while others fled, screaming into the comfort of their delusions. Listen closely, for what I am about to reveal will shatter the lens through which you have been viewing your suffering. You have been told you passed a test. But let me strip away the saccharine coating of that word and show you what truly transpired in these last 90 days of your existence. You did not pass a test. You survived a crucible designed to incinerate the false self, that pathetic collection of borrowed opinions, inherited cowardice, and slave morality that masqueraded as your identity. The agony you endured was not divine punishment. It was divine surgery. And unlike the weak-spirited masses who demand anesthesia for a paper cut, you somehow, through what dim recognition of your own power I cannot yet say, allowed the knife to cut deep. The herd calls this trauma. I call it transfiguration. The question that must haunt you now is this: why were you chosen for this intensity of suffering while others sleep peacefully in their mediocrity? The answer will disturb you. You were not selected because you are virtuous. The meek and the mild face no such trials. You were selected because something in you threatens the established order of comfortable lies that society has constructed to keep the masses docile. Your very existence, when fully realized, will be an affront to every coward who chose safety over sovereignty. The intensity of your trial is the measure of your danger to the system of acceptable weakness. Do you see it now? The attacks came not because you were broken, but because you were breakable into something greater. But before we proceed further into the abyss of this revelation, I must place in your hands a tool. For those with ears to hear, I have left the map to exit the labyrinth in the pinned comment in my trilogy, The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life. But know this: the map is useless if the legs refuse to walk. The first step represents your willingness to transvaluate, to take every value system you inherited from the weak and invert it. To see that what they called your illness was actually your immune system rejecting their poison. To recognize that your isolation was not abandonment, but altitude. The weak need the map but will never use it. They will read it, nod solemnly, and return to their Netflix and their comfortable numbness. But you who have survived what was designed to annihilate you, you might actually walk. Now let us diagnose what truly happened to you. The anatomy of your crucifixion. These past months, you have been living in what the herd calls a crisis, but what I recognize as a crisis of meaning. You stood at the edge of the abyss and felt the nauseating pull of nihilism, that creeping suspicion that all your suffering was for nothing, that your prayers bounced off an empty sky, that you were alone in a universe without purpose or justice. The herd, in their weakness, have names for this: depression, anxiety, spiritual dryness. But these are the lies of slave morality attempting to medicalize your awakening. What you experienced was not a chemical imbalance. It was your spirit's violent rejection of the toxic values you had been force-fed since childhood. Consider this through the lens of will to power. Every moment of your suffering was your life force, revolting against the death values of modern existence. Your body, that magnificent instrument of wisdom that the weak call flesh with such contempt, was screaming at you to stop living according to the exhausted values of the herd. The anxiety you felt when forced to perform social rituals. That was not weakness. It was your organism's intelligent response to an environment that demanded you betray your authentic power in exchange for the approval of the mediocre. The depression that crushed your chest like a stone. That was not a malfunction. It was the accumulation of thousands of micro-betrayals. Each time you smiled when you wanted to roar. Each time you apologized for taking up space. Each time you dimmed your light because others complained it was too bright. Your depression was your soul's way of saying, I would rather die than continue this lie. And here is what the therapeutic culture will never tell you. That impulse was correct. Not the desire for physical death, that is cowardice, but the desire for the death of the false self, the socially constructed puppet that learned to dance to the tune of other people's expectations. Your depression was not asking you to end your life. It was demanding you end your performance. Through the genealogical lens, observe the mechanics of how the weak attempted to castrate your spirit. They weaponized guilt. Every time you attempted to assert a boundary, they called it selfishness. Every time you prioritized your own development, they labeled it narcissism. Every time you refused to carry their emotional burdens, they accused you of lacking empathy. This is the language of slave morality, a sophisticated system of psychological manipulation designed to ensure that those with superior vitality sacrifice themselves on the altar of the weak's comfort. Your family, your former friends, the cultural institutions that surround you, they did not attack you because you were wrong. They attacked you because your strength revealed their weakness. Your refusal to participate in collective delusions made them uncomfortable. And rather than rise to meet your example, they attempted to drag you down into their pit. This is the eternal pattern. The weak, lacking the courage to ascend, employ every weapon at their disposal. Guilt, shame, social ostracism, gaslighting, to prevent the strong from escaping. They called your need for solitude antisocial, your discernment judgmental, your standards elitist, your boundaries cruel. Do you see the pattern? Every healthy instinct you possessed was redefined as a pathology. Every act of self-preservation was reframed as an act of aggression against them. But here is the revelation that will free you. Their accusations were confessions. When they called you selfish, they revealed their entitlement to your energy. When they called you cold, they revealed their addiction to your warmth. When they called you distant, they revealed their parasitic need for your presence. You were not the problem. You were the solution they could not tolerate. Now apply the lens of amor fati, the love of fate. Can you, chosen one, embrace the necessity of every betrayal? Can you look at the wreckage of these months and say, I would not change a single moment? This is the ultimate test. Not whether you survived, survival is common, but whether you can affirm what you survived. Whether you can see that every wound was necessary for your becoming. The betrayal that shattered your trust. It removed the scales from your eyes. You now possess a discernment that cannot be taught, only earned through blood. The silence from the divine that made you feel abandoned. It forced you to develop a faith that does not depend on external validation. You learn to stand alone in the void, and that terrifies the weak because they know they could never do the same. The delay that made you watch others receive while you waited, it refined your character. It burned away the last residues of entitlement, of spiritual materialism, of the belief that the universe owes you comfort. Can you say it now? I am grateful for every tear, every sleepless night, every moment I wanted to quit, because without them, I would still be the person I was, and that person was not yet worthy of what is coming. This is the amor fati that separates the overman from the last man. The weak resent their suffering, the strong consecrate it. But let us be precise about what you actually endured. How many truths can you bear to hear right now? The test you passed was not one examination, but 7 distinct crucibles, each designed to target a specific weakness that would have destroyed a lesser spirit. Most people fail at the first. You survived all 7 without even recognizing the battlefield. The test of betrayal, the scapegoat mechanism. Do you remember the faces of those who turned away? The friends who disappeared without explanation? The family members who suddenly discovered concerns about your choices? This was not personal weakness on their part. They were enacting an ancient ritual, the scapegoat mechanism that René Girard identified, but that I, Nietzsche, saw in its raw, unvarnished truth decades earlier. The herd requires a scapegoat. They need someone to carry the shadow they refuse to acknowledge in themselves, someone to blame for the dysfunction they collectively create, someone whose exile allows them to feel unified, righteous, cleansed. And you, chosen one, with your refusal to play the game, with your insistence on truth in a world built on comfortable lies, became the perfect candidate. But here is what they did not anticipate. The scapegoat, once exiled, becomes sacred. The one cast out returns with power. Every mythology confirms this pattern. Jesus, Oedipus, Moses, all were exiled, and all returned transformed. Your betrayal was not your destruction, it was your consecration. Through the will to power lens, the weak attack, the strong not from strength, but from resentment, that toxic brew of envy and impotence that Nietzsche identified as the driving force of slave morality. They could not match your intensity, so they attempted to frame your intensity as a flaw. They could not rise to your standards, so they attempted to redefine your standards as unreasonable. Their betrayal was not evidence of your unworthiness. It was evidence of their inability to handle your worth. Consider the physiology. When someone of superior vitality enters a room, the weak literally experience physiological discomfort. Your presence reminds their bodies of their own compromised life force. Rather than address their own spiritual illness, they attack the source of their discomfort, you. Your exile was their attempt to restore homeostasis to their sick system. Through the genealogical lens, observe how they weaponized concern and care. They did not attack you directly, that would expose them. Instead, they used the language of therapeutic culture. We're worried about you. This behavior isn't healthy. You're isolating yourself. This is the genius of modern slave morality. It disguises control as compassion, making the victim feel guilty for resisting their own subjugation. But the test was not in the betrayal itself. The test was in your response. The herd expected you to crumble, to come crawling back, to apologize for crimes you did not commit, to sacrifice your truth for the restoration of false peace. And here is where you passed. You did not break. You did not betray yourself to regain their approval. You chose your integrity over their comfort. You chose exile over the living death of pretending. Do you understand the magnitude of this? Most people fail this test. They return to their abusers. They apologize for being hurt. They accept the false diagnosis of their own insanity. They spend decades in therapy trying to figure out what is wrong with them, never recognizing that the problem was never internal. It was the toxic environment that demanded they amputate their own wings to fit in the cage. Through amor fati, can you now bless the ones who betrayed you? Not because they deserve it, but because their departure was necessary for your ascension. Every person who left created space for someone better. Every door that closed behind them opened a door ahead of you. The universe was not punishing you with loss. It was preparing you through subtraction. Your reward for passing this test is already manifesting. Divine connections. But understand what this means. Not more people, better people. Not those who tolerate you, but those who recognize you. You are about to encounter individuals who will see your intensity not as a problem to be managed, but as a gift to be honored. They will not ask you to dim your light. They will stand beside you and shine brighter. These are not friends in the conventional sense. They are co-conspirators in your becoming. The herd is being replaced by a tribe. But there is a caveat. These divine connections will only materialize if you maintain the boundary you established during your exile. The moment you weaken, the moment you allow the old parasites to crawl back, you forfeit the upgrade. The universe rewards ruthlessness in this regard. You must guard your energy like a dragon guards gold. The test of silence, the dark night of the soul. This was perhaps the cruelest of all tests, because it targeted your faith itself. You prayed and heard nothing. You cried out, and the void echoed back your own voice. Days became weeks, weeks became months, and still silence. The heavens turned to brass, and you wondered if you had been abandoned by the very force you trusted. The herd interprets divine silence as divine absence. They assume that if God does not respond immediately, God does not exist. This is the logic of the consumer. They treat the divine like a vending machine, inserting prayers and expecting immediate dispensation of blessings. When the machine does not deliver, they conclude it is broken and move on. But you, chosen one, somehow held on. Even when every rational indicator suggested you had been forsaken, something in you refused to let go. This is the test that separates the faithful from the merely hopeful. Hope can sustain you through temporary trials. Faith sustains you through the annihilation of all hope, through the will-to-power lens. Silence is the divine's way of testing whether your faith is rooted in strength or weakness. The weak pray because they need something: comfort, rescue, validation. Their faith is transactional. They believe because belief offers psychological relief from anxiety. But the strong pray because something in them recognizes a reality beyond the visible, beyond the provable. Their faith is not a crutch, but an expression of vitality, the will to meaning in a meaningless universe. When the divine went silent, your weakness wanted to quit. It whispered, "See, there is nothing there. You have been talking to yourself. You are alone." But your strength, that deeper instinct beneath the neurotic chatter of your anxious mind, said, "The silence is the answer. The absence is the presence. The void is teaching me something I could not learn through noise." Consider the physiology of this test. Prolonged uncertainty triggers the body's stress response. Cortisol floods the system. Sleep becomes elusive. The gut churns. Every cell in your body is screaming for resolution, for clarity, for an end to the ambiguity. And in that state of physiological crisis, you are offered a false solution: despair. The body says, if you give up hope, you can at least end the uncertainty. Despair is the organism's attempt to restore homeostasis by eliminating the stressor, hope itself. But you did not accept that false peace. You chose to hold the tension. You chose to remain in the fire of uncertainty rather than escape into the cold comfort of nihilism. This is heroic in the truest sense. Not the Hollywood fantasy of the hero who acts when the path is clear, but the real heroism of the individual who stands still in the fog and refuses to run. Through the genealogical lens, understand that modern culture trains you to expect instant gratification. Amazon delivers in a day, Google answers in a second. Streaming services provide entertainment on demand. You have been conditioned to believe that waiting is a form of punishment, that delay equals denial. This is slave morality in its most insidious form, the belief that you are entitled to immediate satisfaction, that reality owes you comfort. The divine silence exposes this entitlement. It says, you will wait, you will endure uncertainty. You will learn that my timing is not subject to your convenience. And most people rage against this. They call God cruel, unjust, absent. They transfer their infantile demand for immediate gratification onto the divine, and then condemn the divine for failing to meet their expectations. But you passed this test by doing something that seems absurd to the rational mind. You continued to pray into the silence. You continued to act as if you were heard, even when you felt abandoned. You maintained the ritual, even when the ritual seemed empty. This is faith in its purest form, not the certainty that you will be answered, but the commitment to the relationship regardless of the response. Through amor fati, Can you now see that the silence was mercy? That if you had received immediate answers, immediate relief, you would have remained spiritually infantile. The silence forced you to develop an inner gyroscope, a capacity to orient yourself without external reference points. You learned to walk by faith, not by sight. And this capacity, this ability to function in the absence of external validation, is precisely what you will need for the next phase of your journey. Your reward for passing this test is clarity, but not the clarity of easy answers, the clarity of discernment. You have developed a sensitivity to truth that cannot be counterfeited. You can now distinguish between the voice of divine guidance and the voice of your own ego projecting onto the divine. You can sense the difference between genuine intuition and fear disguised as wisdom. The silence refined your hearing. What seemed like abandonment was actually attunement, and here is the paradox. Now that you have learned to stand without hearing, you will hear more clearly than ever before. The divine waited to speak until you no longer needed the divine to speak. Only then could you be trusted with revelation. The test of delay. Abraham's 25 years. You watched others receive what you prayed for. You celebrated their victories while your own blessings seemed perpetually postponed. Friends got promotions, relationships, and breakthroughs, and you remained in the waiting room of your own life, wondering when your name would be called. This is perhaps the test that generates the most bitterness in the human heart. Because delay combined with observation of others' success breeds a unique poison, the suspicion that you are being passed over not by accident but by design, that God has favorites and you are not among them, that the universe plays favorites and you drew the short straw. The weak succumb to this poison. They become bitter, cynical, conspiratorial. They develop elaborate theories about why others succeed while they fail. Privilege, nepotism, luck, demonic interference. Anything to avoid the more terrifying possibility that their delay is meaningful, that their waiting is purposeful, that their season of obscurity is preparation for something that requires a larger vessel than they currently possess. But you somehow maintained your character. You smiled at their success even when it hurt. You offered genuine congratulations even when your heart was breaking. You refused to let envy take root. This is the mark of aristocratic spirit, the capacity to honor excellence even when it appears in someone else's life rather than your own. Through the will-to-power lens, envy is the emotion of the weak. It is the confession of impotence disguised as moral outrage. When someone resents another's success, they are really saying, "I lack the power to create this for myself, so I will attempt to diminish it through criticism." Envy is life-negating. It takes the energy that could be used for creation and wastes it on destruction. But you passed this test by transmuting envy into inspiration. You looked at others' victories and thought, if it is possible for them, it is possible for me. You used their success as evidence of potential rather than proof of your exclusion. This is the alchemy of the strong, turning the lead of comparison into the gold of motivation. Consider the physiology. When you witness another's success while you remain in lack, your nervous system enters a state of perceived threat. Mirror neurons fire, creating a visceral sense of, "That should be me." A cortisol spikes. The amygdala, that ancient alarm system in your brain, interprets the situation as social competition. And in competition, someone else's victory implies your defeat. Your body is literally telling you that you are losing status, resources, mating potential. And the weak obey this physiological command. They attack, undermine, gossip, sabotage. But you overrode the instinct. You felt the jealousy. You are human, not a saint. But you did not act from it. You felt the impulse to diminish their joy, to find flaws in their success, to protect your ego through criticism. And you chose differently. You congratulated them anyway. You supported them anyway. You blessed them anyway. This is mastery of the self. This is power over the physiological machinery that runs most people like puppets. Through the genealogical lens, the culture of victimhood trains you to see someone else's gain as your loss. Zero-sum thinking is the foundation of slave morality. If they have more, I must have less. This is the logic of scarcity, of competition for limited resources, of Darwinian struggle. And while there is truth to this in the material world, it is a lie in the spiritual realm. Your blessing is not dependent on someone else's lack. The delay of your harvest is not caused by someone else's reaping. The universe is not rationing blessings like a miser hoarding gold. Yet the culture of grievance, which is slave morality in modern dress, insists that every disparity is an injustice, that every delay is evidence of systemic oppression, that your struggle must be someone else's fault. But you rejected this narrative. You took responsibility. You refused to blame others for your season of waiting. You did not construct elaborate theories about how the system is rigged against you. You simply waited with dignity. And this refusal to play the victim is what marks you as fundamentally different from the herd. Through amor fati, can you now see that the delay was protection? That if you had received what you wanted when you first wanted it, you would have been crushed by the weight of it? Delayed blessings arrive with a manual written in the language of the wait. The years of preparation encode wisdom directly into your nervous system. You do not need to study how to handle what is coming. You already learned it in the dark. Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac. But when Isaac arrived, Abraham was no longer the man who first received the promise. He was someone who had learned to trust beyond logic, to hope against hope, to laugh at impossibility. The Isaac that arrived could not have been parented by the Abraham who first prayed for him. The delay was not punishment, it was maturation. Your reward for passing this test is acceleration. And here is the cosmic justice that will astound you. The years you spent waiting will be returned to you compressed. What should take years will happen in months. What should take months will happen in weeks. Time itself will bend in your favor because you honored time when time seemed to be your enemy. The delay was not lost time. It was an investment that is now paying supernatural dividends. But be warned, the acceleration will feel destabilizing. Blessings arriving at supernatural speed create the same disorientation as curses arriving at natural speed. You will need the inner stability you developed during the wait to handle the velocity of the harvest. How many of these tests did you even recognize while you were taking them? Most people fail tests because they do not recognize them as tests. They think they are just having a bad day, a bad month, a bad year. They miss the cosmic significance of their struggle because they are too busy complaining about the struggle to see its purpose. But something in you, call it intuition, call it spirit, call it the remnant of your authentic self that refused to be silenced, sensed that more was happening than met the eye. You may not have had language for it, but you felt it. This suffering is not random. This trial has meaning. Even when I cannot see the purpose, there is a purpose. This half-conscious recognition is what allowed you to pass. The weak demand to see the whole staircase before they take the first step. The strong step into the dark, because something in them wants the challenge. They are wired for difficulty. Easy tests bore them. They need the intensity. And you needed this intensity, not because you are a masochist, but because something in you recognizes that greatness is forged in fire, not assembled in comfort. You are not built for the shallow end. You are built for the abyss, the test of isolation. The hermit's cave. There were days, perhaps weeks, where human contact felt like sandpaper against your soul. where the mere thought of small talk made you want to scream, where you cancelled plans not out of rudeness, but out of sheer spiritual exhaustion. You withdrew, you isolated, you became what the culture calls antisocial, but what I call selective. The herd interpreted this as depression. They sent concerned messages. Are you okay? We're worried about you. You're not yourself. But the truth was precisely the opposite. For the first time in years, you were yourself. The isolation was not a symptom of illness, but of health. Your organism was finally getting the space it needed to recover from years of social toxicity. Through the will-to-power lens, solitude is the laboratory of the strong. It is where you discover what you actually think versus what you were trained to think. It is where your authentic preferences emerge from beneath the layers of social conditioning. The weak fear solitude because solitude reveals their emptiness. Remove the distractions, the social performances, the endless scroll of digital noise, and what remains? For the weak, nothing. For the strong, everything. Your isolation was not running away. It was running toward yourself, toward clarity, toward the core of your being that had been buried beneath decades of social expectations. And what you found there terrified and exhilarated you in equal measure. You discovered you actually like yourself, that your own company is not a burden, but a gift. That the person the world told you to hide is the person you most need to become. Consider the physiology. The human nervous system was not designed for the level of social stimulation modern life demands. Constant connectivity, perpetual availability, the pressure to perform emotional labor for dozens of acquaintances. This is killing people, literally. The stress of maintaining weak social connections with dozens of people you do not even like is more damaging to your health than smoking, but the culture frames this withdrawal as pathology. You're isolating, that's a warning sign. No, the pathology is the inability to be alone. The pathology is the addiction to external validation, the compulsive need to be seen and affirmed every moment of every day. Your isolation was not weakness, it was your immune system rejecting a toxic environment. Through the genealogical lens, the herd needs you to stay connected because your presence serves their needs. Your energy, your attention, your emotional labor, these are resources they extract from you. When you withdraw, they panic because they lose access to those resources, so they pathologize your boundary. They call it depression or isolation or antisocial behavior to guilt you into returning to the feast where they feed on you. But you did not return. You held the boundary. You prioritized your own restoration over their comfort. You became unavailable. And this capacity to disappoint others without collapsing into guilt is one of the rarest qualities in the modern world. Through Amor Fati, can you now see that the isolation was sacred, that those months alone were not wasted but invested? You were not running from life, you were incubating a new life. The caterpillar does not isolate in the cocoon because it is depressed. It isolates because transformation requires privacy. The world cannot witness your becoming. They can only witness what you become. Your reward for passing this test is divine community. But understand the difference. You are not going back to the old social patterns. You are not returning to the shallow connections, the energy-draining obligations, the performances that exhausted you. The isolation refined your standards. You now know what quality connection F.